Sitting next to me is David Sullivan. He's the Grand Lodge representative for the Eastern Territory of the International Machinists Union. That's the union. That part of the union covers basically from Maine to D.C. And his website, and you're going to find this fascinating, is lobster207.com. It's also the Twitter handle. Well, it's lobster207 sales. My dad worked in a tool and die shop for 40 years. I'm real familiar with the Machinists Union. And David, first of all, welcome to the program. So glad to have you with us. You need to hold the mic right up to your mouth.
Thank you.
Tell us, how did the Machinists Union organize Lobster? What do you call yourself? Lobster people? Lobster?
Lobster Union, yes. It's Lobster 207. It's local 207 within our union. The fishermen came to us, the Machinists Union. We represent some pretty big people in the state of Maine, so like Bath Iron Works and stuff like that, where we have about 3,000 members. So
we being the Machinists Union.
Union, yes. And they were having some trouble back in 2012 and wanted our help.
They being the lobster people.
The lobstermen, yes. So we thought we'd help them at the State House. There was some bills coming out that were going to hurt the industry, so we jumped in, started working with them and trying to help them, and then we decided that it was a good fit because they're independent contractors, so it's a little bit different than what we're used to doing. So at first we didn't think there was anything we could do, so we just wanted to give them a hand, help them at the State House. And then it turned into, let's form a union. We got them in our union. And then once we formed the union, we then thought if we could vertically integrate them into the whole process, and we formed a statewide co-op. So we cover the entire state for fishermen. And then, so the fishermen not only catch the product now, because in the past they used to catch it, bring it ashore and sell it, and that was all they had to do with it. But now they actually own it from the sea floor right to your door. So they're part of the process the entire way. It never leaves our control. The lobster's in our possession the whole time, so the fishermen catch it, they bring it ashore, and then we take it in our trucks to the facility. We take the orders, we pack them and ship them, so the profits are supposed to go back to the fishermen at the end of the year.
So it sounds to me like what you're describing, David Sullivan, that the union helped the lobstermen put together basically not just a union, and not just unionize, but create a worker-owned co-op.
Yes.
So because typically, I think most people in the business were basically, they owned their own boats.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So they were basically independent fishermen who were
independent boat owners. Yes. Yeah. So now they have their own business. They sell their lobster to themselves, and then when the lobster's sold, it puts the fishermen in the middle instead of having the 10 people in the middle. The fishermen do the hard work, and they've always been kind of left out. So now they not only do the hard work, but now hopefully when we get this up and running, this is our second year now with the website, and once it's up and running and the profits go back to the fishermen, they'll also make additional money at the end of the year based on how their business does.
And the fellow I was talking to earlier from the union, I believe he told me that they are now one of the largest, or maybe the only, but I thought he said the largest online source. If you're a fan of lobster, where you can get lobster over the internet, and it's 100% union from the time it's caught to the time it's shipped to you.
Yes. Well, we're the fastest growing right now. There's several people that sell online, but for us to be all union, we get our money through the Bank of Labor, which is the Boilermakers, and then the Machinists Union are the fishermen, and then we use UPS, which is the Teamsters, to actually ship it. So we've made it union all the way through, so that our whole process is union.
Every step is union.
Every step.
And the website, once again, is lobster207.com, which I think is just a hoot. What advice do you have for, as somebody who's who works in the union? I mean, you're the Grand Lodge rep for the Eastern Territory for the Machinists. My dad's old union. Love you guys. What advice do you have for people who might be in the situation that the lobster guys found themselves in, lobstermen, they were kind of like, well, I was going to say the Uber drivers of fishing, but it wasn't even that well coordinated or organized.
No.
I mean, what advice do you have for people who might want to get a union into what might otherwise be considered a niche industry?
Kind of the same thing. We're doing this with the Maine Loggers right now. We've used the same model that we did for the fishermen, because the coastline of Maine is so big, and we had to break it down into phases, so we didn't go too big too fast. So we want to do a kind of a slow roll and get it right. So we've created this model to vertically integrate them into the system, and now the Maine Loggers are also part of what we're doing now. We started the New England Loggers Cooperative,
Right.
so that they can also have some buying power, have a voice at the State House, have a voice in D.C., and integrate them into the same thing so that they can bargain over their working conditions, wages, and stuff like that, because in the past they couldn't do that, so they didn't have the right to bargain. So we had a victory at the State House this year to give them the right to bargain. So we've kind of taken our model for the fishermen and we've moved it into the logging community, which is kind of the same thing. They're all independent woodcutters. They have their own equipment, their own trucks, skidders, and things to work in the woods, where the fishermen have their own boats and do all that. So it's almost like the same model, but we're going now from the sea out to the land. So
are you guys building out a presence in the Pacific Northwest? We've got logging is like a major industry.
Yes, we're trying to get this. We want to dial it in here in Maine first, or in New England, and then we'll take our model and see if we can work it out there as well. So
that is great.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of ground to cover, and it's new ground. You know, it's kind of outside the box, and that's kind of how the Machinists are. We want to be outside the box a little bit.
Right.
Find new ways of organizing.